Right. So, in context to the Guidewire development learning is concerned, we must be knowing about the configuration part followed by the integration. So, when we are working into the Guidewire integration from the development side, we need to understand different business case scenarios and how this can be resolved as an integration developer. So, in that context, I have taken one use case scenario. Use case scenario, for example, we want to integrate policy center with billing center integration, because when there is any policy application submission happen, so underwriting process will undergo. So based on the underwriting process, through integrating configurations, we do provide a quotation to the customer. So once we have given the quotation to the customer, if customer accepts the quotation wherein bind the policy, subsequently customer has to pay, the policyholder has to, customer has to pay the billing. So billing team need to access the data relating to the policy center information. Subsequently, what type of billing will it be, right? So either it can be agency billing, premium billing, will be performed by the billing team. So being a developer, especially maybe from the integration point of view, what and how this can be addressed. So an use case overview, this is an use case overview. For example, use case name I have taken where sending issued policy information to the billing center. In this, normally there are two different systems we'll use. One is on the policy center is being used because you are accessing the data from the policy center and billing center is using it. Now, normally when we try to understand this, we must be knowing about the integration elements. Normally integration elements will be of three. One is web services, second is about batch processing, and third is about the message queues. Web services, we know fundamentally we using RESTful API, wherein if you want to pull the data from the policy center to billing, we use all the methods, something like get method, all that. So there are two systems, policy center system as well as the billing system center will required in the application. And what kind of integration type? This is where we call it a synchronous process of SOAP and RESTful API. Normally SOAP we are using for a very long time because which is a heavyweight application, heavyweight integration, this thing. But nowadays we are using RESTful. So let us consider this as a RESTful API only. Okay, RESTful API we are using because which is a lightweight. We have even methods also, get method, put method, all these things can be seen in RESTful API. So being a Guidewire developer from the integration point of view, we are using RESTful API. Let us consider that. Normally, whatever the web service that we create is called synchronous process. Message queue is called asynchronous process because sending a message where the result will be seen. Let's say policy document we are sending to the customer, which is an asynchronous process, which cannot be seen on the screen. That is called asynchronous process, but this is a synchronous process of integration type we have taken. Now, what must be the trigger point? Because why are we integrating this? Because end of the day, once the billing is completed, policy has to be issued. So what is the trigger point here? Trigger point is to issue the policy. Now, who are going to involve in it? Normally, actors like, so for example, system event is an actor which is involved in it. At the same time, when there are goal want to be understood with, so goal is to create billing for the policy whichever is accepted against the quotation that we have given. At the same time, we need to create an account followed by this invoice generation has to be made. This is what something that goal is all about. Now, when we try to understand about the end-to-end process flow is concerned for the particular use case scenario as follows. The one it starts with when we are trying to understand about the flow process, underwriter issues the policy in policy center, we know based upon the risk assessment they will do it. So once the policy issued, even whatever the policy that we want to be issued and all. So we need to create an integration layer which prepares the billing request because billing people have to integrate and they have to access the data. So wherein billing integration must be there, right? So integration layer has to be created. So once we have created an integration layer, for that RESTful API we are using so that you can call the data. So policy data will be sent to the billing center. So billing team has to know what type of policy a person has taken. For example, someone has taken homeowner insurance, right? So in homeowner insurance, they have taken a policy type called dwelling. Dwelling means permanent structure of the building they wants to insure. So all that depends on the type of policy. What are the coverages? Either it can be HCO2 or HCO3 or something. So based upon the coverage types, etc. So whatever the type of coverages we have and whatever the quotation, based on the quotation, billing team has to process the billing account creation, everything. Subsequently, invoice generation will be done. And at the same time, response will be returned again to the policy center so that policy center team can forward the policy document officially to the customer, maybe in 2 days or 3 business working days, or maybe immediately, whatever it is. Make sure once the billing is completed. So this is the end-to-end process flow from a development point of view. Being an integration developer, I'm referring this, right? So as an integration developer, one should be knowing. Now, what components we are going to use? So integration components are as follows. One about the outbound web services, because inbound and outbound web service is something that we use. RESTful API, we are using it. Next, we need to use GoSu API call so that we can call the API. So we need to write a sample code of GoSu, which I was mentioning here. Next, at the same time, we need to use XML JSON transformation, whatever the required XML JSON transformation we have, everything can be imparted here, right? So we need to call upon XML and JSON transformation and all. So how this can be implementing, right? So because normally payload we have to create, either it can be an XML payload or it can be a JSON payload has to be created for this particular GoSu API call. And if there are any error handlings and all, everything that has to be performed when it is any errors that we have come across. So these are the integration components we must be good with. And this is a sample code. Of course, this is a code as I've taken, right? So variable we have taken request as a billing request is a variable because we want to create new billing request. So for that, we have a billing request policy number, which must be equivalent to policy number that we have generated. At the same time, billing request total premium, which must be calculated against to the policy that we have taken. So subsequently, total cost will be generated. So next about code that we need to generate even for billing API for creating an account so that billing request will be initiated from there onwards. So for that we have Guidewire Developer Studio. We have integrations option we have so that we can use it. At the same time, we have an option, even we have a GoSu Developer Studio code wherein you can see here, right? So just give me a second. This is a developer GoSu ID, right? So where if you want to develop any code, etc. So wherein we can use this GoSu and we can write the code, right? So whatever the integration code is required. So that code can be generated here, right? So here it is, right? So this is a sample code I've taken for claim files and all that. So if you want to create, so wherein we can go ahead, wherein if you want to create any kind of code, so for any examples, if you want to create, etc. So if you want to create any kind of GoSu classes or something, we can create, and we can, even if you want to write Java classes, because GoSu is a programming language wherein which will be built upon Java virtual machine. So even we can update this GoSu code. Subsequently, we can create. So this is how generally, so we need to write down the GoSu code accordingly for the particular integration and all. Next, what kind of failure handling mechanisms that are to be followed? There are possibilities. There may be failure come across while at the time of integration. So wherein we need to have two, as an example I have taken. One is about service timeout. For example, the particular service of integration that we are doing to access the details. Assume that the timeout is there, right? So wherein we have an option where it can be retried n number of times. N number of times, there is a limit, right? So example, I have taken 3 attempts. 3 attempts of retry can be done. After that, it may be, depends on the instruction given on the business rule, it has to be acted upon. There could be a functional error also because, for example, the policy status, right? So as long as the billing is not successfully completed, still the consider it will be showing as billing pending. This can be one functional error you can see on the failure handling. So this is how a use case scenario one should understand when we are working on the Guidewire development integrations point of view, being a developer. There can be many other use case scenarios, but I have taken one scenario and just explained you so that uh, will have a better understanding over this.